Rob's experience in managing his chronic pain.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us which area of Leeds you are from?
My name's Rob Weston and I live in the Gildersome Morley area of Leeds.
Can you describe the chronic pain and how it affects your daily life?
I was diagnosed with arthritis, first of all, about 15 plus years ago. Pain started to get worse and it didn't seem to be isolated to just my joints. So it took another 5 or 6 years for them to then diagnose me with fibromyalgia. No 2 days are the same with pain. Good days are few and far between. I think I must at the minute spend 60, maybe 70% of my time in bed, unable to do a great deal at all. If I've got an appointment, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of preparing, not just physically but also mentally. There are times where I am in so much pain, a t-shirt on my skin is too much. It's quite demeaning to me, the fact that I have to ask somebody to help me with socks and laces and things like that. I can't stand and wash pots, I can't cook a meal, I can't stand in one position for very long. So walking with a crutch does sort of steady me a little bit.
What do you do to manage your chronic pain?
I take morphine. I take it once a day and then I have top-ups. That's the only thing that works. I can ease it slightly with hot water bottles, wheat bags, things like that. But without the painkiller itself, everything stops. The painkiller does make me very tired. My husband is no longer just my husband, he's my caregiver. And I don't think he gets any support with that. And he does a brilliant job. I would be lost without him. He plans so down to and he thinks of things that I've not even considered myself. He has a full-time job. He runs the house, looks after the dogs, looks after me, especially with the benefits agency, and then dealing with doctors trying to get consent. And I also struggle with social activities. And I think part of that is because not everybody understands the pain I'm in. And a lot of the time I will say to the husband, you go, I'll stay here. I do mind. I mind an awful lot, but that's how it is.
How have these experiences made you feel?
I've suffered with depression and anxiety for many years, and I don't think that's got any better at all. Bearing in mind, I've gone from running a business to now not being able to do a great deal at all. There's nothing wrong with my mind. My mind is sharp as a tack, but my body doing things that's the issue. I've had enough of living my life like this. Spending 60 to 70% of time in bed. Depression feeds into the pain feeds into it is the vicious circle, and nobody seems to be able to help you break that or work out which bit is where it starts. You also are then thinking of, one, people are looking at you because you're walking with a stick. I'm 40 years old, it's not really what you expect a 40-year-old to look like. Are you going to have a fall? Are you going to... And there's so many different scenarios you play out in your mind that you then don't want to go anywhere. You do sometimes think, why... It'd just be easier if I weren't here. And that's not a nice feeling, and it's not a nice thought.
Is there a reason that you haven't accessed any help or support in managing your pain?
I think if now they offered me an appointment with a pain clinic, I would be apprehensive. I've been there and I've done that, and they're all the same, in my opinion. You answer a load of questions, they get you doing things that you couldn't do before you were in pain. You don't get any further forward. It's a tick box exercise in my experience. I was told when I was diagnosed that there isn't a cure for this, it will simply either stagnate or get worse. But there's no support with that. So if I went to the pain clinic, what is the pain clinic going to offer me that we haven't already tried, that we haven't already discussed? And it does feel a bit like you're being gaslit, that you are just being... You're here because it's the show. We're not actually here because we want to help. And I think that's the biggest thing that makes me nervous about it. But I also think one of my biggest fears is, going back to the opioids, is they wanted to take this away without putting anything else in place. Dependent on a drug, not in an addiction sort of way, but you are dependent on that drug to live, in that it works and it stops your pain to a level. To think that somebody's going to take that away from you without doing anything else or giving you any other support is absolutely terrifying. It's never about me. It's about the money. That's what it feels like. It comes back to money. How much can we afford? How much can the service afford? If I give it to you, I can't give it to somebody else. It's money. It's not focused on the patient at all.
Do you feel supported in managing your pain?
I do feel supported in my pain and in my well-being by my husband and my friends that get it. Without the support of husbands and wives and family and friends, I think we that have chronic pain would have sunk a long time ago. The NHS is a brilliant organisation and I love it, but on a one-to-one basis, certainly with chronic pain, they don't get it. Since being diagnosed, I have had no contact from GPs unless I contact them. No contact from specialists. It was slightly better in Doncaster. They did refer me to specialists, and that got a bit wary because you would repeat the same thing with each person. You're constantly repeating things and nobody's actually looking at you. Nobody's ever asked me about my mental health. I've gone and spoke to them about my mental health. If I don't make the effort, they don't. A GP has never asked how I'm feeling unless, like this week, I went and said, I'm spending 60 to 70% of my time in bed. My antidepressants aren't working. Something's got to give here. Having one GP that you get to know, that knows you and gets to know you as a person as well as your issues, to me, is the foundation. It sort of blows the walls off and sort of says this is where we need to start. I haven't had any referrals to pain management or any other services in Leeds. It's quite worrying that they're doling out this quite powerful drug, but nobody's checking on that. Nobody's seeing how effective it is. Nobody's asking these questions. The only time that somebody's ever discussed my drug with me was to say that the government has sent out an edict that says opioids are bad and we need to reduce the amount of opioids that we're giving to people. But as I said to the GP, what are you going to give me instead? Well, nothing. There is nothing else. You've had everything else. This works. But the government said, you can take that away, but if you're taking that away and not replacing, what do I do then? We managed to reduce the dose of the opioids, but they work. Where's the individuality there? Where's the care for the patient? And that is the one thing that I think I'm lacking here in Leeds.
What aspects of care or support have you valued the most?
The GP I saw this week was brilliant. She looked up, when did you last have this drug? That was all she did. The rest of the time she was talking to me and my husband. She didn't rush us. She didn't simply say, I've got another appointment. She wasn't constantly looking at a watch. Because we were there talking about depression and anxiety, she understood that that's actually quite a serious thing. We needed somebody to listen. And she did that brilliantly. And I actually felt, and we both came out and said, she was brilliant. I'll go and see her again. She's a locum. She's not going to be there.
What improvements would you like to see in services?
We should be allowed to see one GP regularly and we should get to know that GP. I think the biggest thing other than that is coordination. Services don't coordinate. I can't see this test result. I can't see this. They have a different system to us. I've sat and waited for 2 hours. I've finally got into the room to see whoever it is, and then you can't see my notes because you're on a different system. I can't tell you the frustration and the anger that then creates. It would be really good if the GP could also coordinate and then speak to personally the pain clinic or the therapist or whatever else and actually get feedback from them. We saw this is what's happened, but it doesn't. Services have to be good. They have to be tailored to the person that you're seeing and not to a population. Nobody fits one mould. It's pointless having referrals unless you've got a coordinator that is then managing what those referrals are. But it's still the GP at the end of the day that gives you your tablet. So there has to be better communication, there has to be better coordination. But I also think twinned with that, there has to be a mental health aspect as well. Because it's twinned with the illness, it should be twinned with the treatment. When they're giving out this mental health support, they need to then include the families, the friends. Not just immediate family, but the people that actually you see on a regular basis. I don't think it should be forced, but I think it should be recommended. You would actually cut off a lot of problems before they developed because it does help. Talking does help. After speaking to Dr. who was brilliant, she referred me to something called Mind Matters, I think it was. And then it turned out it was a phone appointment, which was fine, but there was no option. That phone appointment was 20 minutes, which wasn't long enough. And I do much better, and I'm sure other people do much better speaking to somebody that you can see, that you can actually connect with. So there has to be some flexibility in the services that people are offering. Being able to ring up that day and say, listen, I'm having a really bad pain day, can I do this on the phone, would be really, really helpful. But having the option to do it in person should also be offered. The other thing that I will say that chronic pain brings for me is memory and worrying about whether you've done something. In Doncaster, I could email my GP. If you're tailoring this service to me and my needs, having an email sent meant I could see it in my sent box. I then wasn't worrying. It's there, it's right in front of you. And sometimes I've got the energy to type an email on my phone. I haven't got the energy to sit in a queue on the phone for an hour and a half trying to get through and trying to get to speak to somebody. I know we do a lot in this country about disabled access and ramps and things like that. This is disabled access. I'm disabled and you're limiting my access to my GP. So perhaps the policy needs looking at, because you're shutting me off here and I need to be able to speak to you.
Thank you to Rob for sharing his experience.